Well, hello, JMC Village. It's me, Josh, tuning in for another episode, another installment of Speaking with the Village. Thanks for anyone who's decided to join us, whether it be live or tuning in afterwards. We appreciate all your love and support that you're showing JMC. Couldn't do it without amazing people with amazing support and an amazing village around these kiddos to help support them. And we have an amazing guest today that has helped support so many foster kiddos, so many foster parents. He's been a huge support to myself as well as just JMC in general as we're getting started here in the CPA world. And it is Nathan Lasheen. So
hey, everybody.
So welcome him in, and we will be talking about today what a foster family looks like, because as some of you might, have expectation in your head that, only a foster family could be this, or maybe you don't have that expectation. That's awesome. And we're just here to talk about, Nathan's journey within fostering, how that family changes and how important family is. So, Nathan, if you want to just take it away, just give the viewers. I'm lucky enough to know you a little bit, so give the viewers a little lowdown and in your creds for fostering here.
Oh well, thank you, Josh, for having me here. So as Josh said, my name is Nathan Lasheen. I've had the honor and privilege of being a foster parent over 16 years now. So I work for another private agency called CYS, Community Youth Services Foster Care, and have had the amazing opportunity of meeting most of JMC and working with Josh. But really, we're here kind of talking about my foster care journey, and that I kind of had a unique one. Is I actually started out foster care when I was 21, and I started out as a single guy, just fostering, and eventually along the way, met my husband, and he agreed to get married and put up with me, and it was like he went from no kids to, oh great, now you have 3 teenagers. So it was quite a fun experience for us to kind of integrate the family, and really learn that it's family is kind of what you make it. As long as everybody loves and is supportive of each other, families look so different. And it was an interesting journey, really being always single parenting, having to figure out babysitters, respite, all that kind of dynamics, to now married. And now I have a partner who can help out with all these things. And now the kids have 2 dads, and it's been interesting, but it's always been a good, joyous experience for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it really is. It's the village that you make it, and family is village. And that's what we talk about. JMC is one of our biggest things, is that it takes a village, and the family around you is, like you said, what it makes, what you make of it. And how, I mean, it's just so cool to hear that, not only did you start at such a young age, but you're able to, find someone who was able to put up at least with the passion that you had. What got you in at such a young age? Like, what was something in what sparked the 21-year-old Nathan Lasheen to start fostering?
Oh man. So that's kind of one of those, my whole family actually did foster care.
Oh, wow.
So my parents did foster care, and we were foster parents for a couple of years, and my aunts and uncles did foster care. They actually adopted kiddos out of foster care system. And, so like every summer and every vacation, I'd come back, and, they'd get all of us together on the farm to help buck hay and, take care of the farm and everything for the family. And there'd always be other people there and other cousins and kids to play with. So to me, it was kind of a natural thing. And, I started, I kind of knew I'd always be foster care, eventually, but I just didn't think I'd get into it so young. But I actually, was at my work, and this, kiddo was there. It was school nights. They're super late, like 10, 11 o'clock at night. And after like the second night, I was like, dude, what are you doing, man? What's going on? And, he told me he was in foster care. And I was like, kind of told me a horror story of just not having a good family. And I said, dude, what's your social worker's number? I need to let them know, that this is going on. And like within 2 weeks of meeting this kiddo, he went home from school one day. The unfortunate classic story for a lot of our kids, wasn't told they were being moved. All their stuff was thrown in trash bags, and the social worker was there on the porch waiting for him to get off the bus. So she allowed him to call me when he was on the ferry boat to Seattle to go to a group care center, because there wasn't any homes for a teenager. And as you know, Josh, really after about age 10, 12, it's hard to find homes. So he was one of the unfortunate going to a group care center up in Seattle, and I didn't think much of it at the time. And a month later or so, she calls me and she goes, he really wants to talk to you. Are you willing to talk to him? I'm like, sure, why not? A couple of months later, she goes, his birthday is coming up. He wants you to come up, but you'd have to do background and all this. I'm like, sure. Then a couple of months later, she goes, you ever thought of being a foster parent? She was just one of those amazing, I'll never forget her name, Robbie Childs. She retired, but she was one of those old school social workers who just kind of, saw a need, fill a need. And she grew her own foster parents. And even after she retired, she would still come down from Seattle to check in on us. And, just want to know what's going on with the kids, what's going on with you. And it was just, it was just an amazing, it felt so natural to grow that way and progress. And
that's awesome. It's so great that, it rings true. And one of our community outreach manager, Donovan, who always says, you might not be able to change the world, but you can change the world for one person might not be able to change the world, but you can change the world for one person. And that ultimately, it sounds like it is. It was a spark that caught you and that caught that kid. The rest is and encouraged and nurtured by someone who, was a supportive part of that care team. And she said, like, no, you can do this. And, I know, and that's something that you do so well. I know your parents and the community itself, and you've encouraged me is just like, hey, you could do this. Like, we can do this. We can all, as a collective, as a group, really raise children to feel loved, to feel cared for. And that's ultimately just what they need. And, it's tough that parents people they think that at 12 and 13 that there's no, flexibility of their behaviors, or there's, but really ultimately what it comes down to is just showing love, and showing that you're there for them. And so, I mean, it's great to hear it. It's like, it's hard. It's like, well, how do I, you come from a culture that is just so, it was your culture growing up that fostering was like a given, and I think that's one of the hardest things is that it's not in mainstream culture. It's not as addressed regularly. It's not talked about in, certain social circles or certain groups. So it can be tough. And, I don't know how you feel, but do you think that there's any groups or, do you think there's any ways that people in their own culture can make, fostering kind of a norm or a priority within their community?
Yeah. I mean, really foster care it's what you make it. And there isn't any one set, demographics or education or any of those factors that say, oh, that's going to be a great home or that's not going to be a great home. It's what, as you said, the village. Who's wrapping around you? Who's your support network? Who do you call when, you don't understand something or when you kind of hit that wall? And that's the thing is that foster care, it's more of a journey than anything else. And as in life, when we're out hiking, because I know you like to hike, Josh, how many times do you stumble? How many times do you fall off that path? And it's about that person to just help get you up and keep moving down that journey, because there is no right or wrong way to parent our kids. There is no right or wrong thing. I should have said this. I shouldn't have done that. And that's the amazing thing is that, our kids, we all make mistakes. And as parents, we can, show, hey, I'm still learning. And I think that's one of those big kind of scary things for a lot of people is I'm a single parent, or I've never been a parent, or, we're a couple, we've never been married, never had kids. Like, what would I do? How would I talk to a 10-year-old? How would I talk to a 12-year-old? How would I talk to, an 8-year-old? I don't understand that. And there's so many different groups and classes of people that'll come around you to support you. And, Josh, you and I spend a lot of time with our new families. And those are those things like, I've never been a parent. How do I parent a 12-year-old? How do I parent a 15-year-old? I was like, actually, super easy, because you can talk with them. You give us a call when you have problems, and you can just bounce ideas off. And the great thing about, kids, it's okay for us as adults to make mistakes, because we can say, oops, that came out wrong. Or can I have a do-over? Can I say that a little bit differently? Or, hey, you know what? I need to take a time out, and can we talk in 10 minutes? I mean, that's, what we teach our families. And, Josh, it's easy when you've been doing it for so long, but it's that first initial step of getting you through the door, getting you through the licensing process. And then you get your first kid, And that's where, the rubber hits the road after that honeymoon phase and, that first couple of months. And, you know what I'm talking about, with your families and just how much time you have to spend. And that's why having, a village, having somebody like Josh, that when you get up, or having challenges, you can call and you can actually, hey, here's what we're going through. Here's what I tried. I don't know what the heck I'm doing wrong here. What can I do different? And Josh can give you 5 or 6 different things, because that's what it is. We're all learning together.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, if you have a kid with another person biologically, and you're raising them, you're probably going to call their grandma to be like, oh, what happened here, or take your examples that you get and move it forward, and and really, and that's your village of support. And when parents think that it's a whole different ball game, really, when it's coming up in foster care. It really isn't. No parent has it figured out from birth of child to 18th birthday. It's a lot of time in between, a lot of mistakes, and like you said, I love that it's a good example to set for them that mistakes are okay. We can recover from mistakes, and we're going to learn from them ultimately. And that's what, I think a lot of people are scared of, is making that first mistake, that one mistake that they're going to make, and cool. Yeah, it's going to happen. It's like, which is always, I think it's fun, because it gives, myself or the other staff around me an opportunity to like show them, like, no, you're capable. Like, you really can do it. Just try this little thing, It's like, I've dealt with teens like this before. Just give them, a choice maybe at the first, the first option, not just tell them what to do. And then works wonders. And just to see that, like, that come through for a parent is so great. And so it's that first challenge, it's some of those challenges that come through. And, I don't know if you had any challenges that in your mind, you're like, when I started out, I was youngin', I started out real young. I don't know what it is. Was there any like huge challenges where you're like, that felt insurmountable, but then, where did you find success? What was the reason you found success and ultimately stuck with it?
Man, I think that those first things, because, single male, never had a kid, never parented, all of that, kind of read as many parenting books as I can. And you know what? It's like, there's some good things, there's some bad things, there's things that don't apply to our kids. So, I mean, really, it was having those connections to other foster parents that I had met, and really having people that I can talk to. And, that's where the rubber really for me hit the road, is being able to talk to other families and know that this is normalized behaviors. This is the trauma response that our kids are going through, being able to reach out and getting connected to the different resources. Because that, when I first got licensed, I felt really isolated, because I didn't know about Treehouse. I didn't know about WISE. I didn't know about support systems. I didn't know about case aids, advocates, all of those things. And the more I've learned, the more it's like, you're really not on this journey alone. And, now I have a Rolodex of like, oh, if I need to talk to somebody, I can talk to somebody. If I'm having a, stressful time with my kiddo, I can talk to this person. If I'm, our agent, there's agencies that do like educational supports. And those are one of those big ones, like dealing with school districts can be challenging, especially in some of our rural communities where, they don't understand totally 504 and IEP. They don't understand some trauma responses. And, so, I mean, those could be challenges, helping getting the kids, especially as they start to transition into adulthood and, the extended foster care programs or independent living or transitional housing. Those were hard for my first couple of kiddos, because I was learning as they were learning of what are the resources. And, there's a lot of resources out there. It's just figuring out like who's the gatekeeper, who knows that information, who knows that one. So I encourage families, especially my new ones, to go to as many trainings as you possibly can, because the trainings are good. Meeting those foster parents and expanding your network is where the real, that's the real key to your success. Because the more people you have that are in your corner that can help you provide respite, transports, and honestly, just even play dates where it's important for me to be able to sit down and visit with somebody as it is for my kids to be able to go play.
Right. Yeah. It's sharing the like experiences with the like minds, and it just fills you with confidence and love. It's like, it's that, everyone has been in one stage of that process at one time or another, and they got through it. And they say, they show it's attainable. It's there for you. you just have to know, you just kind of have to reach out, make that, sometimes that, yeah, it's the scariest step. It's the first step. The most intimidating, part of writing a paper is that blank page, right in front of you. That is the worst, because there's nothing, you didn't take there's no concrete steps done yet. And you feel like there's everything in front of you. But once you start taking those first few steps, that's what's so awesome. And so great to see people find those first successes, and, the play dates, the fun little things, the little, the pieces of community that you didn't know were within your own backyard. That's really awesome, and I this is something that's new to me. I'm new within the foster care realm, and I didn't know about so much of this stuff, but grew up here. I grew up, and I had a friend who was a foster kiddo, and I didn't really realize until it was later that he was moving around or had left school and came back because he had to move school districts because it was a odd, weird placement or something, and he came back. But now it's like reflecting on it, it's like, wow, I wonder if he knew about all this stuff and all these things. It's just so great to be a part of this community and just feel so welcome and loved, because everyone is here just to love and to show the love that every kid deserves. It's ultimately what we're all here for. So,
and it's been, really just kind of reflecting on being licensed as a foster parent for so long. There's much more connectivity between the systems. And, it's gotten easier. It's still challenging, but it's gotten a lot easier over the years because systems are starting to talk. It's easier for us to find each other, find those supports, because it's the more connections you can make, the better life's going to be for everybody.
Right. Yeah. And, it's just new, and, what's going to hurt with the new experience and some new knowledge. So, and I think that's what's so cool, I think, about fostering is the opportunity for kids for that same purpose. They get exposed to a family, or maybe a family dynamic they've never even thought of, an aunt and, a daughter living together and fostering, two men being in a relationship and fostering, that's something that might not be new. That the idea of, a nuclear family being mom, dad, dog, and kids, is even becoming more and more. It's almost just as common as a mixed and blended family. It's really cool to see kids thrive within that situation, and ultimately probably, I know there's a lot of foster parents that they're like, yeah, I was a foster kid. That's why. It's because they know the value of bringing a kid into their home. And, I wonder, what do you think some of those like advantages of bringing a kid into maybe kind of an unknown or a new like family dynamic can be?
Honestly, I think it's, as long as the parents are going into it understanding and putting the work in to prepare themselves, I think it can be fantastic. I mean, and that's, we see so many families that we sit down and talk with, and that they go, I don't know, I could be a foster parent. I'm not that, 1 point, what is it, the 1.2 cars and the dog and the white picket fence. And, I don't live like that. I live in a condo, or, I live in, on the beach, and, I've got this huge farm, and I've got my chickens and ducks run through everything. And those, kids respond to that because that's a real world. You come into anybody's house, and there's always going to be stuff left out. There's always going to be some dirt, and that's totally normal. And it's always interesting, and Josh and I talk about it. Some of the families that we talk with are like, I didn't think I could be a foster parent as a single person. I didn't think my partner and I could be foster parents. I didn't know I could be a foster parent if I had a roommate. And, all of these, this is really the norm in our society is these non-traditional families. And it's such a beautiful thing to see because it gives our kids an opportunity to really identify and, see what true, that love, compassion, caring, it doesn't know anything. There's no boundaries. As long as people love and care about each other, they make great families, and it's great for the kids to see. It's great for them because, unfortunately, a lot of our kids don't get to go to, the same family dynamics that they had before. They might not, they could be, from a different ethnicity. They could have a different religious background, heritage. So having all of these amazing families that come from different walks of life is so important.
Yeah, we ultimately just need more foster parents across the board, not one look or one way here or another, because we have so many kids that come from, also, like you said, it's becoming more and more common for it to be a mixed or just unique family situation. And, I think it's really awesome, I think, to have kind of that genuineness, the rawness at the same time of like, yes, this is reality of how some people are, and I think that kind of will empower our kiddos to be themselves too, ultimately, and they'll start to thrive because, they're in a situation where they might be doing what they think is expected of them in order to get where they ultimately think they need to go, or they want control of, the situation. But, if they just see what genuine love looks like, and you're not faking it through, that's all that, that's the biggest impact I think you can have on a kid, is showing genuine you can be yourself and that they are all deserving of love, because they might not have come from a place that sent them that message. So
it's such a genuine experience to be genuine and humbling to be a foster parent, because there's so much of that I've had to learn and unlearn, and how many times I've fallen and having to pick myself back up when I thought I figured it out. I got this. I've been doing this long enough, and you don't. And, there is something that's really powerful for our kiddos to see that even as an adult, I don't know everything. I make mistakes, and I own up to my mistakes. And it's really about, what do you do when you make that mistake? How do you respond? And, that's what our kids need to see, is that we are all humans. We all make mistakes, and we're all learning.
Yeah. And then just giving them that chance to, to recover and ultimately grow, I think is they're not, they're not always given that chance if they're kicked out of X home to be in Y home. And, sometimes it just takes that little extra sense of support from your family, from agency, from a support group that says, no, you got this. It's just going to be a little tough right now because they're going through something. They're going through trauma responses and a move. And then they think, oh, well, might as well just get on out of here because I'm expected to leave. And that's what's expected of me, is to keep going. But once they're shown that I'm not going to give up on you, that is ultimately shows them that they shouldn't be giving up on themselves.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And Josh, when you that pivotal moment is when, your foster family calls you and is like in that crisis, something happened, the kid said this happened, whatever, and helping the family understand and really be able to then kind of come back together as a family. And, that's where they're those magic moments, because that's where the kiddo can see is that even with them making a mistake, they're still here. They're still part of this family. And that's, too many times people get very quick of like, what, you should have known X, Y, Z. You shouldn't have done this. And, when you can talk with your families and help them understand, a lot of our kids, they weren't taught those same things you were taught. And you're having to start sometimes at square one with a lot of our kiddos. And you have to be that consistent, loving, supportive, and understanding person. But then you get to call Josh and be like, oh my gosh, Josh, I need to vent. And that's what it is. And I'll tell you 100%, none of us foster parents have gotten it. I've been doing this 16 something years, almost 17 now. I still have my support network that I can hold it in till, all right, it's 10 o'clock bedtime. And then I'm calling somebody and being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said this, or I just did that, or the social worker did this, or this happened, or, you just have to have those people that you can talk to, because there are going to be times where you're just like, what happened? How did we go from, we started out the day here and I just asked, did you want cereal or did you want pancakes? And now we ended up on this far side.
Yeah, it can be so small because, ultimately they came from a situation that might have been, what had been said, what had been done, something that happened in just something insignificant to you could have been a trigger for them that says, okay, I need to survive. I'm in survival mode, because they come from situations where they have to fend for themselves, where they're, or they're not, they don't see their parents because they're trying to, work 5 jobs or something. And they're ultimately just trying to survive and make it to the next day. And if you can show that you'll be there the next day, I think that's more powerful than the mistake you made. I think just the being there, I think, is the biggest thing, and being present is huge.
Well, it's those little day-to-day things. You're almost never going to get that, Hallmark, everything changed today. That almost never happens. It's those little things that we, even to this day, that you might see as insignificant. Those are those things that they're going to judge you the most on. Those are those things that tell them they're safe, they're loved, they're cared, they're affirming. It's little day-to-day things. You're almost never going to have that aha moment.
Yeah, and I even think that's the same way with engaging with the first steps. It's taking the little bits that are telling you I should do this. I can make a difference. I can do this. Rather than there's not going to be a big shining light that says, go be a foster parent, on the side of the road or something, or, this one child needs you, that there's, just happens to show up at your door. Yes, sometimes things happen like that, but even like with you, like it was a kid that was just plopped on your lap, but it took that time that you showed your first kiddo, like, I'm here. I don't have the only vested interest I have in you is love and caring and wanting the best for you. And I think that's all you have to have in your heart is the best, wanting to have the best for children. And sometimes those small steps, the small stumbles along the way will happen, but that's what your support team is here for. That's what the people that do this work want you to have, because then you'll know that you are capable in the end. And I say the end, but it's a continuous process, really. I guess the end is never.
Yeah. I mean,
as you can attest.
Oh yeah. But, and that's the thing, is that it's been really phenomenal. Is it's not just the kiddos that I've had over the years. It's that my husband and I have now 5 grandbabies, that we have our extended family, that we have our kids coming over and playing in the backyard. And now we have our second generation of kiddos coming. And, I never wanted to have my own biological kids. It's never been a drive for me, but there is just something amazing, when my 5-year-old granddaughter, comes screaming out of the car, Grandpa, Grandpa. And, to know is really, because it's breaking those cycles. And it's just been absolutely amazing to know, my kids have broken that. My grandbabies have no system interactions, and they're taken care of and they're loved, and I get to play with them. And then after about 2 hours, I'm like, and go home.
I have my own kids now.
Yeah, it was quite funny. We watched one of our kids' my kids' 3 grandbabies, and it was the first time they ever were like, we're gonna go do a date night. Can you watch them? Like, yeah. Like every hour on the hour, they were like FaceTiming us, like, are they okay? Are they? What are they doing? Are they? It was really funny. I felt like it was like in a hostage situation. Like, give me proof of life. Show me that they're still. Because it was, it was the first time we ever had the kids for it was like 6 hours, and it was absolutely fun. And just to have those experiences where we would never be able to have, my husband and I can't have kids, and, to be able to now have our grandbabies and to have them grow up, and they just know us as our grandparents, and, we get to expand our family. And, people ask me all the time, how many kids have you had? I said, I couldn't even tell you how many I've had over this, period, but I can tell you Christmas times, people are always coming back. We have, birthdays, anniversaries of kids being placed here. They still come back. And we just recently had a kiddo that unfortunately, just a lot of behaviors, a lot of runaway. And we didn't know that we made an impact. And we haven't seen him in 2 years. He came by with his girlfriend and his kid, and has a 3-month-old son, and is working a full-time job. And his girlfriend is going back to school. And we were talking, and he was like, I've been trying to get a hold of you guys for like a year. DCYF can't give me your cell phone number. And he was down in Vancouver, and we're up here in Pierce County, and he was just up here, and he swung by. And, it was a kid that I thought we didn't make a connection, because he was always running away. He was always, getting involved in, activities that just weren't safe. And, he came back and said, thank you. And, a lot of times you don't actually get, those thank yous, and we don't do it for that. But it just shows of like, I only had him like 6 months. But, in that 6 months, he knew he was part of a family, even though at that time in his life, he couldn't stop his behaviors. He was still running away, blown out of school and all that. But we were still the same consistent people. And fast forward years later, we hadn't seen him. Like I said, we didn't even kind of, think about him, because it's been 2+ years since we even heard from him. Comes up and, so that, I mean, even that little impact of 6 months in the grand scheme of life is nothing. But you know what? That 6 months was life-changing for him. And that's what I tell my families. And you don't know what clicks and what doesn't click. And while you have that kiddo, make sure that you show them what a family is, what connection is, what love is, because it might be the only time they know it.
Yeah, wow. That's so awesome to hear. I mean, it's inspiring, and fills me with such love and hope. For our families that are going to engage with their kiddos, because you're right. It just takes a moment of listening, a moment of wanting to understand where they're at, that they might not have ever experienced before. So, wow. Thank you so much, Nathan, for joining us. This has been awesome. It's so great to hear about the success stories and the great things that can come of building a family within fostering. And like you said, it doesn't take but a few steps, a few of the hardest steps, but even if you make it little by little, even if you just start fostering night to night, that can honestly, and some of the parents I've met, they're like, I started night to night and now I have 6 kids like in my home.
Oh yeah, that's common. You start out, I can only do 1 kid, and you're like, and how did I end up with half of a basketball team?
What, I got a van now? What's this?
Yeah, no, it's a common one. And that's, the last thing, if you were ever thinking of becoming a foster parent, reach out, learn about foster care, and learn of, that fostering can look different for every single family. There's always going to be a need for it. There's always going to be a need for loving, affirming homes. If you have a desire to do it and you're like, I don't know if I could because of XYZ, or my house is XYZ or whatever, come talk to Josh, come talk to me, come talk to anybody who's in foster care. We need homes, and we're always going to need those special homes, because there's so many kids that need people that understand, that just because you offer me a home and a bed, that doesn't erase my trauma. Mm-hmm. I'm still going to act out. I'm still going to have my challenges. I need somebody who's going to be consistent. So if this is something you've ever thought about and you're just unsure of, reach out to any of the foster care agencies. Call Josh. He'd be more than happy, and I'm going to put him on the spot. He's more than happy to set up a time, do a Zoom, do a phone call, and just talk to you and ask him 1,000,001 questions, because that's what he does. That's what I do. And talk, find out if this can fit in with your family, and get to know, the different programs that are out there, because there's different ways to foster. You don't have to do long-term. You can do respite only. You can do receiving cares. You can do BRS. You can do levels. And there's so many different ways of being a foster parent, and any of us would love to talk to you about it.
Yeah, and that's why I love that you brought that up. Is that, yeah, it is. We will find what will fit for you. If you want to make a positive impact and you just want to be the loving and stable home for a child, we'll figure it out. Ultimately, you talk to Nathan, you talk to myself, you talk to anyone else who is here supporting foster children, and ultimately, that's just what we want. We just want them to have a place to consistently lay their head at night, and have a home that is loving and caring and that is supported. And that's what we do. We support those homes. So I just want to say thanks again to you, Nathan, for joining. Thank you for everyone who tuned in. We're going to say goodbye to Nathan for now. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, bud.
Any last words for the viewers?
Find out, educate yourself, and you'll see that there's many ways you can become a foster parent, and reach out to any of us. We want you to join our village.
Yes, please do reach out to Nathan at Community Youth Services or myself at JMC. Thanks, Nathan, for joining us.
Thank you, bud. Bye.
Well, that was amazing. We have an awesome village behind us. I'm so happy to have had Nathan on here and to share his amazingness with you all. If you want to reach out to us, jmckids.com, right there. There's an email, fosters@JMC, another easy way to reach us. And then just our phone number. Call it up. I'll probably be the one to answer. 313-7658. Or then here's our website just one more time for y'all, jmckids.com. Come join us. See what part in the village you can play. We got plenty for you to love and engage with, and we want to spread that love that you have for kiddos. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next third Thursday for Speaking with the Village. You got Donovan next week for Intro to Foster Care, so tune on in.